The new Star Trek television show, Star Trek Discovery, had generated immense controversy even before it began airing in 2017. Now in its second season, this show has caused massive disappointment for many perennial fans of Star Trek, including yours truly. But why? What is so wrong about this show that diehard fans find so utterly objectionable? Set 10 years before the events of the original series of Star Trek, which starred the characters of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, Star Trek Discovery would seem to be a prequel. The makers of Discovery have repeatedly insisted that this series takes place in the so-called Prime Timeline, not in the Kelvin timeline, referring to the three most recent Star Trek films, in the first of which from 2009 the USS Kelvin is destroyed after a time-traveling incident, creating a parallel universe and therefore a reasonably palatable excuse for diverging from the Prime Timeline that fans have come to know and love for the past 50-plus years. Is it the darkest timeline? Yet the makers of Star Trek Discovery have said that adhering strictly to canon is not their main goal. What is canon exactly? Canon refers to the set of events and even the personality of characters embodied in the corpus of a work of literature, cinema, or television. In our case, the Star Trek canon is the collection of events of the original series of Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise, and the 10 original Star Trek movies. We might also include the animated series in that list. As a lover of cinema, I can appreciate the possible need, or at least the desire of a storyteller to diverge from canon in order to craft a better story. Sadly, nearly every episode of Star Trek Discovery is very poorly written. Excellent channels like JP's Egotastic FunTime, Nerdrotic, Doomcock, and Midnight's Edge, all of which I can strongly recommend you subscribe to if these topics interest you, links in the description, have rightly eviscerated Star Trek Discovery's bad taste in scripts and have delineated the, shall I say, illuminating production details behind the scenes. One of the more tragic elements of this story, although tragic for whom I can't exactly say, that is, rather than syndicate the episodes of Discovery on multiple networks and platforms, say in the model of Star Trek The Next Generation, which received a very wide audience in the early 90s thanks to this strategy, CBS decided to use the Star Trek Discovery series to launch a new payment-driven streaming service called CBS All Access, in the model of Hulu or Netflix. CBS All Access, which by most accounts, and certainly in my opinion, is a website and app that functions very poorly, especially when compared with other services out there, also has a YouTube channel. Some of the YouTube channels that I recommended before, including Egotastic FunTime, Nerdrotic, and Doomcock, let the world know last week that CBS published the premiere of the second season of Discovery on the CBS All Access YouTube channel, not behind their paywall. According to rumors they reported, CBS did this because the number of subscribers to CBS All Access has been dismally low, though they don't report them publicly, so we don't know for sure, and also because CBS can't trust their internal metrics of audience response to this show. In what would appear to be a very intelligent move by CBS, they went to YouTube to learn what fans really think of Star Trek Discovery, which we can laud them for. A few days ago, I penned the following open letter to CBS and the makers of Star Trek Discovery, which I posted in the comments section of the Discovery Season 2 premiere on the CBS All Access YouTube channel. Dear CBS, since you have placed this video on YouTube to gauge honest public reaction to Star Trek Discovery, I would like to offer an important observation. Michael Okuda, a chief graphic designer for Star Trek since the 1980s, noted some years ago in an interview that Star Trek is actually a period piece. It's a period piece set in the future, but it has a continuity, both of historical events and most especially of tone. Take a popular period piece like Downton Abbey. Unimaginable effort was put into every historical detail of that wonderful show. And the result? is that fans with passing or even excellent knowledge of the early 20th century are able to appreciate how the context of the world at that time affects nearly every aspect of the show. You see, our human drama is essentially the same story in every TV show, in every movie, in every myth. But the context of the period forces the characters to make certain decisions based on their condition. For example, in Downton Abbey, upper-class young women are expected to marry wealthy young men. But in the time period of the show, those very men mostly have been wiped out by World War I. So many of our female leads are constrained to make difficult choices. This creates drama for our main characters. Now, few of us who live today are similarly limited, but we can imagine ourselves in that time and explore the human drama through their senses and experiences on screen. Sometimes a period piece is executed extremely poorly, and the movie Troy comes to mind. In that film, the continuity of the myths and legends of the Greeks is carelessly discarded, ostensibly to make a better movie. Sadly, bad writing makes that film hard to watch. Some of us are intimately familiar with these ancient stories. So when the character of Menelaus is killed in the movie Troy, I balked, commenting to my friend in the theater at the time, "But then how will Menelaus meet Odysseus' son Telemachus later in the Odyssey?" And we laughed at the poor script. Obviously, the writers of the movie Troy only had the most basic understanding of the Iliad and the Odyssey, which is the sequel to the Iliad. And they missed important plot points that could have greatly improved and enriched their script. Now, I grant that many people are not terribly familiar with the Iliad and the Odyssey today, which I think is a shame since they are the foundation of all Western literature and have had a profound influence on all civilization. The Marvel Cinematic Universe does an excellent job of creating a contemporary period piece with impeccable continuity. Its movies, stories, and characters are all linked, which adds greatly to the enjoyment of these films for those of us who have seen more than one. Simultaneously, each movie stands on its own as a well-written, coherent story, not dependent on the other movies, but supported by them. Each subsequent movie or TV show spin-off adds to that tapestry. It does not unravel it. Interestingly, this is not a modern phenomenon. The ancient Greeks continued to write plays about the characters and events in the Iliad and the Odyssey. Plays that were prequels, sequels, and interwoven stories dealing with the established continuity. 100 of these works survive, and from them, the base of all Western literature. Many different authors wrote these works, but they always understood the importance of maintaining continuity. They respected that their audience knew these stories. The Hollywood execs who made Troy were interested only in invoking a famous story in order to attract people to the theater. Thus, the artistic result is hollow. Making money is great, and I approve of funding cinematic artists. Think of the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul. Even, dare I say, the 1990s Star Trek TV series. You'll find these shows do well because of their excellent attention to the details of continuity. CBS, your Star Trek Discovery reeks of the same foul mistake made in the movie Troy. Rather than respect continuity, Alex Kurtzman, who currently holds the reins of Star Trek, has said that a franchise with 50-plus years of TV shows and movies is impossible to add to without disregarding continuity. Considering that the ancient Greek epic poems and plays comprise some 300 years of continuity from pre-Attic Homer to the Athenian playwrights, and truly, 1,000 years to include the subsequent Roman literature based on the same complicated interwoven stories, see Ovid's Metamorphoses or Virgil's Aeneid, this assertion is false. It would seem that it is impossible for Alex Kurtzman, because he has not seen all the TV shows or movies. Frankly, I would doubt he has viewed even 10% of the source material, probably much less, just based on his productions in Star Trek so far. Yet, I've seen all the Star Trek movies and TV series, some of them multiple times, and so have many fans of Star Trek, or at least a large portion of it, or even their favorite series. The point is that fans of Star Trek do know what Star Trek is. So, when we, the fans, say that Star Trek Discovery is lacking, take our word for it.
But you don't have to take my word for it.
Or you, at CBS, watch all these episodes and movies. Really, I'm not kidding. See what was done well and what was done poorly. Learn from the mistakes and successes of the past. I really don't think it's too much to ask for the current showrunners of Star Trek to be very familiar with the source material. While he made changes for the sake of cinema, was Peter Jackson not intimately familiar with the Lord of the Rings books? What about the makers of Game of Thrones? Or Harry Potter? CBS, the Star Trek franchise is a golden goose, and it will keep laying those golden eggs. But only if you treat the animal with respect. So, here is my solution. Have every one of your writers involved with Star Trek watch every episode of TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise, as well as the original 10 movies. Then, they can absolutely be original and craft stories that fit into this continuity. Otherwise, what's the point? Oh, yes, to usurp the Star Trek brand name to try to draw a new audience in order to, of course, make money. But then, if you don't respect this continuity, you won't expand the fan base because you'll lose the fan base, and the show will fail. Which it seems is already happening now. You see how important respecting continuity is for your business to make money? We, the fans, want you to make that money so you can continue to make good Star Trek. Star Trek that fits with continuity. Star Trek that embodies the spirit of the show, of the shows, of the movies that we have come to know and love during our whole lives. At the bare minimum, get a few consultants who are well acquainted with the Star Trek TV shows and movies, so they can filter out the bizarre mistakes you are making in continuity. Don't make us scratch our heads wondering how the proverbial Telemachus will meet the dead Menelaus. Thanks so much for listening. What do you all think about this? Leave your comments. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel for more commentary, and also follow Egotastic FunTime, Nerdrotic, Doomcock, and Midnight's Edge for more about these subjects. And I mentioned these great channels, but are there other videos or channels we should check out? Leave those links and your thoughts in the comments below.